there, Mr. White.
Oh, yes, hi. Sorry, I'll be right down.
Hi.
Why, hello there.
You're my new lab assistant, I take it.
You ever heard of Jet? Well, you're talking to its maker. Its creator. Its God.
Really?
I make the shit everybody wants and can't get enough of.
We could talk about that for hours.
Want some drugs to break the ice, or should we just...
Ow! What?
You're a sharp one. So, you learn your shit at Vault City or what?
Are you actually this stupid?
Jet's pure genius.
What exactly do you do here? I've been meaning to ask.
I made it.
I cook. But from what I can tell, you are just a drug addict.
Drug addiction, not an STD. Only cure is to go cold turkey, and that's a real difficult option with Jet.
What the hell is wrong with you? I'm really asking.
You sure do ask a lot of goddamn questions.
Myron died less than a year after the defeat of the Enclave, stabbed by a Jet addict while drinking in the den.
Yes, it's done.
And now there is no one who remembers his name.
You're goddamn right.
So, I think we can derive what effects the drug Aurora may have on the people of Starfield, and more importantly, the player character. We'll need to cook up some context clues from the established lore of Starfield and Bethesda's previous games, but first we'll mix in a little actual real Earth history for flavor. Add a little greed, desperation, and a complete disregard for the well-being of your fellow man, and when we're done, we might just have ourselves a potent, psychotropic, hallucinogenic, largely illegal, and highly addictive chemical compound street drug. In space. Space drugs! So first of all, I don't know why I never thought of this before, but the name of the popular drug Aurora, which is Neon City's sort of claim to fame, is also the name of a prototype jet that was supposedly being developed by the US government for reconnaissance purposes in the mid-1980s. This sleek, tactical-looking aircraft was given the designation SR-91, but as a code name, it was dubbed Aurora. It was said to be capable of hypersonic speeds, or Mach 5, which was well beyond the capabilities of manned aircraft at that time. Though it was a very popular aircraft in the mid-1980s to early 90s, there is actually no evidence supporting the existence of such an aircraft, and the US government has consistently denied that it ever did exist. Which is weird because the SR-91 was supposedly a replacement for the very real SR-71, codenamed Blackbird. The Blackbird was used by the United States Air Force and the CIA, as well as NASA, all the way from 1966 to its retirement in 1999. So, why is this relevant to the drug Aurora in Starfield? Well, honestly, it's not. Mostly. But what is relevant is that we now know that Aurora was a codename given to a jet. Let's see, what's the name of that really popular drug in the Fallout universe? I think it starts with a jet. No, not that jet. So are you catching my drift here? Does it not seem like Bethesda is kind of recycling the same concepts throughout their game with some slight variations? Not that it's unoriginal at all, I just think it's interesting, because calling the commonly used drug in Starfield Aurora seems like it's a reference to the type of drug we can expect, or what kind of effects it may have, considering Aurora is a codename for a jet, which is a popular drug in Fallout. So what I'm thinking is that Aurora and Jet are going to have very similar effects on the player in-game. Essentially, I think that Aurora might be Starfield's Jet. So what does Jet do for you in Fallout, and how could Aurora impact the player character if it's anything like Jet? First, let's refer to the Fallout wiki to get the rundown on Jet. According to fallout.fandom.com, Jet is a highly addictive form of methamphetamine commonly found throughout the wasteland. It is extracted from Brahmin dung fumes, okay, and commonly administered via an inhaler. And what exactly does Jet do? Well, it has powerful hallucinogenic properties that stimulate the central nervous system, giving the user a rush of energy and strength. This rush of euphoria lasts only a short period of time. Due to the user's altered state of consciousness, it seems much longer though. Jet typically comes in the form of a metered dose inhaler that delivers the aerosol compound into the lungs so that it's rapidly absorbed into the bloodstream. So how do these properties translate in the game world? Well, as the Fallout series has progressed, Jet has become more simplified in its effect on your character's stats or skill set, yet it's taken on a more direct or immediately useful application in-game. For instance, we first encountered Jet in Fallout 2, which is based in the wastelands of California. No, not LA. As well as Nevada. In Fallout 2, Jet has properties that boost your character's action points, strength, and perception. This effect increases as the chemicals in Jet permeate throughout your system, and this effect is shown in a timed stat increase after 5 minutes with a slight reduction after 24 hours. Now, the downside of Jet, as is with all hardcore drugs, is that there's a 50% chance of addiction, which is permanent without the cure. And we'll see your stats drop by -1 after 2 days of not using Jet, leaving you dope sick, essentially. Moving on to Fallout 3, and instead of giving the player a boost to their special skills or stats, it only increases your max action points by +30 for 4 minutes, and there's a 20% chance of addiction with each use. New Vegas is very similar, and in Fallout 4, Jet has no stat boost, but actually slows down time for 10 seconds. I don't know about you guys, but it seems like the effects of Jet in Fallout 4 took direct inspiration from the highly underrated film DREDD, starring Carl Urban from back in 2012. It was an awesome action flick that was actually a reboot of the original Judge Dredd starring Sylvester Stallone from 1995. There's a popular street drug in the film that is very similar to Jet, and it's actually called slow-mo. I highly recommend DREDD if you haven't seen it, but anyway, that's neither here nor there. You can see how Jet has kind of been watered down over time. I don't know if that's because of how popular Bethesda's games have become over the last 2 decades, and they're trying to avoid getting hit with drug classification ratings, or if people in the wasteland have somehow developed a higher tolerance. All I know is, if Walter White was a chemist in Fallout, he'd be very disappointed at the lackluster purity rate of these wasteland drugs. I mean, what's a guy gotta do to get that good Jet? You know, that stuff that will make you feel like you're moving faster and slower at the same time? Obviously, Bethesda's no stranger to using hallucinogenic drugs in their games, ones that reflect the real-world consequences of substance abuse and chemical addiction in the game world. This can even be seen in the Elder Scrolls series, going back as far as Morrowind. We're talking about that illegal narcotic used throughout Tamriel. That's right, Skooma. According to the Skyrim wiki, once someone has become addicted to Skooma, it is said there is no potion, blessing, or magical incantation that can cure them. In fact, one who has become dependent upon it is forever made a hopeless slave to its allure.
Skooma is distilled from moon sugar, which is sacred to we who worship the moons and stars, but those who use skooma for pleasure quickly become slaves to its visions.
Wow, that's pretty hardcore. But this, of course, is no more than a Khajiit truism, akin to cultural superstition or urban legend, as many skooma addicts have successfully freed themselves from the clutches of addiction. All that aside, how does skooma affect the player character in Skyrim? Well, for starters, it increases the player's stamina. According to the wiki, the more addictive side effects are bouts of euphoria, protracted lethargy, loss of voice, minor fits, and possibly death. Whoa, that reminds me of those medicine commercials where they list the known side effects at the end. It always starts with something relatively minor like tummy aches, and usually ends with something way more severe like cancer or loss of brain function, like Jesus Christ.
Those who have a history of breathing, walking, and functioning as a Homo sapien may respond negatively to medication.
Don't do drugs, kids. Anyway, what's Jet and Skooma got to do with the drug of choice for residents of the settled systems in Starfield? For one, if we take what we know about Jet and Skooma, we can probably derive some of the chemical properties and maybe some advantages or disadvantages of the drug for the player. Both Skooma and Jet essentially have hallucinogenic properties, just like Aurora, accompanied by visions or feelings of euphoria. They are both also known to give the player some level of boost to their strength, speed, or stamina. On the downside, however, they are both highly addictive and can damage your charisma, intelligence, and perception. That's a hell of a trade-off. With this information, we can assume that Aurora will have similar positives and negatives for the player in certain gameplay scenarios. In the Starfield lore, Aurora is a drug harvested from a particular species of fish on an aquatic planet in the Vol 2 system. It's manufactured by the Xenofresh Corporation at the Pleasure City of Neon, which is also likely the capital city, or at least the most popular city on that planet. Hell, maybe it's the only city, okay? Give me a break, we don't know. Interestingly enough, Aurora has been banned everywhere except Neon City, which is why people travel from all over the galaxy to experience it. Wow. Obviously this stuff has to have some highly addictive qualities, otherwise it wouldn't be banned in all the settled systems. Keeping with the traditions of Bethesda's other popular game drugs of choice, it will likely give you access to a useful in-game mechanic of some sort, or a hefty stat boost for good measure. Likewise, the downside will bring addiction and negative side effects that surely resemble what we've seen in other Bethesda games, such as a hit to intelligence or a lack of agility brought on by mind-numbing lethargy. I think that Aurora having psychotropic properties and being highly addictive will likely give you some sort of vision or awareness of some sort that you otherwise don't have without it. I've seen comments suggesting that Aurora itself will give you visions that guide you to the artifact pieces, or acts as a catalyst to other revelations, which, much like the artifacts themselves, seem to do. Regardless, it sounds like Starfield will have a healthy in-game economy, and likely Aurora will be a commodity that can be bought on Neon and sold elsewhere for a hefty profit. You better believe I'm going to become a space drug dealer in my first playthrough, okay? And I'm going to establish a monopoly on the black market fish trade. This, in turn, will cement my desired position in Starfield as the settled system's most revered space western drug dealer gangster astronomer. On a side note, I forgot to mention the no-brainer that the name Aurora is likely also a reference to Aurora Borealis, the atmospheric phenomenon known as the Northern Lights. The term Aurora Borealis was created by Galileo and derived from Greek words for sunrise and wind. Aurora is also a reference to the Roman goddess of morning. Alright guys, so what effects do you think Aurora is going to have on the player character? Do you agree that it will be a drug similar to Jet or Skooma, that you can access freely and has certain positive or negative effects on the player? Or do you think that the experience of Aurora will be a more on rails and only used for story purposes kind of experience? Comment down below and let me know what you think. Anyway, thanks a lot for watching and stay tuned for the next video as we look forward to the future.
Hey kid, don't ever let them get inside your head. They'll tell you what to do in life instead of everything you know that you could get. Don't let them guide your life towards regret. I'll fight for what I love with every breath. My past is filled with things I won't forget.